Welcome to the Bullshit Free History Podcast. This is your host, Tatya. Episode 2, The Corn Revolution. So here's a fun fact. 7,000 years ago, corn didn't even exist. That's right. No buttery corn on the cob at your backyard barbecue. No popcorn at the movies. No corn syrup quietly ruining everything in your pantry. Corn was just some sad, scraggly grass hanging around southern Mexico doing nothing exciting. But then, some brilliant indigenous plant enthusiasts decided to science, crossbreeding grasses, spotting random genetic mutations, and basically inventing agriculture's first miracle, mace. A geneticist even called this humankind's first and perhaps greatest feat at genetic engineering. So next time someone brags about CRISPR, just remind them that ancient Mexicans were way ahead of the curve. I mean, sure, today we've got CRISPR, clustered, regularly interspaced, short, palindromic repeats. And let's not forget high-tech labs, but indigenous farmers 7,000 years ago were doing sophisticated genetic engineering with their bare hands and somehow managed to create corn from scraggly grass. At first, these early ears of corn were tiny-like, is this even worth eating tiny? But after a few thousand years of farming hustle, indigenous farmers upgraded that pitiful grass into the big, juicy corn we know today. This launched the Neolithic Revolution, Central America edition. Humanity ditching the exhausting life of chasing animals around and opting for the even more exhausting life of growing their own food. Yay! Soon, Central Mexico was just bursting with corn stalks and, surprise, people. By 100 Common Era, Teotihuacan had about 100,000 residents, miles of paved streets, and a giant pyramid so impressive it would make Egyptian pharaohs so jelly. Mesoamerica was churning up the heat, literally and figuratively, with the Maya and Aztecs coming soon to dominate the scene. Eventually, corn cultivation hopped over the deserts of northern Mexico, because corn is boss, and spread to indigenous people of the Southwest, the Hohokam, the Mogollon, and the Anasazi. These former nomads gave up wandering for a new vibe. Let's call it corn-based suburban living. They settled by rivers, built canals, and became water engineers thousands of years before civil engineering degrees were even a thing. Their entire culture revolved around corn. The sun and water became sacred religious symbols of life and rebirth. Priest astronomers weren't just stargazing for fun. They were basically the ancient farmer's almanac, figuring out exactly when to plant so corn wouldn't shrivel or freeze. Corn was so important, it got VIP status next to sacred ceremonial pits. And let's not forget the corn mother imagery, where the fertility of women and crops blended into one big cosmic metaphor. Oh, and whoever controlled the corn surplus, political powerhouse. Forget oil, forget gold in the Southwest. It was all about who ran the corn. Despite the desert's heat and dryness, seriously, who thought farming there was a good idea? These communities thrived after the year 800. Chaco Canyon, a place where today seems barely livable, became a booming metropolis. The Anasazi carved villages right into the sandstone cliffs because apparently condo life was trending. They connected their cliff towns with an elaborate road system and built Pueblo Bonito, a 5-story architectural flex. Meanwhile, the Hohokam weren't messing around either. They built an irrigation system that stretched hundreds of miles, complete with dams and sluices. Their town, adorably named Snake Town, yes, really, had a few thousand residents. Surely, these communities weren't as massive as the Maya or Aztecs, but let's give credit where it's due. The Anasazi, Hohokam, and Mogollon didn't just farm. They conquered the challenge of farming in some of the harshest environments imaginable. It wasn't about wealth or size. It was about surviving and thriving where most people today wouldn't even want to go camping. Corn's rise and grind. Corn, the golden diva of agriculture, didn't stay put in Mexico. It spread east and north like a TikTok trend nobody asked for. By the year 200, cornfields were popping all over the southern Mississippi River Valley, but then things got a little chilly. Early frost up north was like, nice try, corn, but not today. Also, let's be real, corn cultivation was hard work. And shocker, people didn't exactly line up to volunteer for endless weeding and shucking. Farming in forested regions wasn't just exhausting, it was a full-time nightmare. First, you had to clear the land, which meant burning down the undergrowth. Then, you're down on your hands and knees, hoeing the dirt with whatever random tools you had lying around. Flat rocks, clamshells, animal shoulder blades, because why not? All while knowing that when the corn finally grew, you'd spend the rest of your life pulling weeds and drying ears of corn. And compared to that, the thrill of the hunt sounded way better. Chasing tasty animals through the woods, snacking on meat, and enjoying enough downtime to actually have a life. No wonder farming was considered the lesser job, and actually still is, by the way. A side hustle that indigenous men quickly delegated to women who probably didn't have much say in the matter. Cue collective eye roll. But gradually, even the skeptics realized if you didn't want to starve, it was time to grab a hoe. Farming began to look like the lesser evil. Fields in the north and east were cleared and planted with corn, beans, and squash, a brilliant combo called the Three Sisters Farming, because apparently naming them after siblings makes endless agricultural labor sound charming. The corn provided a stalk for the beans to climb. The beans gave nitrogen to the soil, and the squash sprawled out like a living weed-blocking ground cover. It was basically the original sustainable farming hack. And here's the wild part. We can actually track corn spread by looking at ancient teeth. Turns out, when you chew corn, the enzymes in your mouth churn the carbs into sugar. Lots of sugar. Which means cavities. So, archaeologists can literally see corn invading the diet by counting the number of rotted teeth and skeletons. Around the year 700, dental disasters show up near modern St. Louis. By the year 900, they reached southern Wisconsin, and by the year 1000, everyone across the Midwest and East probably had toothaches. Corn was now a lifestyle and was also running the economy. Corn had become king. Population explosion. Corn didn't just fill stomachs, it triggered a full-blown population boom. When an acre of woodland could barely keep 2 or 3 hunters alive, an acre of cornfield could feed 200. Basically, corn was the ancient version of food security, but also an ancient enabler of overpopulation. Some might jokingly refer to corn as the earliest invasive species, but it's more realistic to give this title to human beings. Foragers generally did okay in the summer and fall, but winter, total nightmare. Food vanished and starvation loomed. Corn, on the other hand, could be dried, stored in pots, or buried underground, ready to rescue entire villages when times got rough. Sure, corn wasn't exactly a superfood. Let's not pretend anyone was thriving on that diet, but it kept people alive through the cold months, which was apparently the main goal. And with survival came more babies. Lots more babies. Thanks, corn. The high-carb diet made women reach puberty earlier, and to make matters worse, or better, depending on your perspective. Corn mush was soft enough to feed infants. Mothers started to wean babies a bit earlier. This meant they could become pregnant more often. Women in corn farming societies had kids about twice as often as women in nomadic bands. Plus, in nomadic societies, toddlers on the trail were a logistical nightmare. Crying, slowing everyone down, needing constant supervision. Some foraging groups probably tried to keep their numbers smaller for this reason. But farmers didn't care. They were staying put, and every tiny hand was a potential weeder, water carrier, or corn husker. Even toddlers got drafted into the agricultural workforce. As populations swelled, these corn-based societies did the obvious thing. Cleared more land, planted more corn, repeated the cycle. At first, they coexisted peacefully with the hunters, trading corn for protein and vice versa. But inevitably, as corn-fueled villages grew larger and hungrier, tensions rose. And when conflict broke out, guess who won? The side with way more people. Spoiler alert, it was probably the corn cultivators. Corn societies spread like wildfire, west into Dakota, east into the Carolinas, south into Florida, and north into Wisconsin. Their villages were tight clusters of homes surrounded by endless cornfields, basically early suburban sprawl. They shared beliefs and rituals, massive burial mounds, temples, and granaries being the most important structures. Some villages became towns and small cities. Eventually, the homes of the elites were located on top of the mounds, becoming just as prominent to the society. And here's the real kicker as we wrap this up. Whoever controlled the corn controlled everything. Food, population, politics, it was all tied to that golden grain. Corn didn't just feed people, it transformed society itself. Egalitarianism, this was being phased out. Corn entrenched hierarchy, concentrated power, and churned fields into fiefdoms. So next time you're munching popcorn, remember, this humble crop didn't just change dinner, it changed civilization. Thanks for listening. What do you think about corn now after listening to all that?
It still tastes the same. I still like it.
You still like it?
I would still eat it.
What do you like on your corn?
I like absolutely nothing on my corn.
You don't, what? Not even any butter or like tahini or something?
Actually, cool. It's juicy on its own.
You're a purist. You like everything plain.
Like, if I put a bunch of stuff on my corn, I can't tell it's corn. It's just...
It's too busy for your taste buds.
I'm hungry.
You just ate dinner.
Talking about food just made me hungry, okay?
Do you want some corn?
I actually kind of want some popcorn with salt.
Alright, let's go make some popcorn.
My cousins are gonna instantly smell the popcorn. They're gonna want some.
Well, you can share. We'll make enough for them too.